Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, there's quite a bit of energy in the room today and around the halls. So we are very honored today. We have an all-star cast of people. In particular, we have a minister, Minister Paula from Rwanda, and it's an honor to have you on this session. Also want to mention, thank you and congratulations for joining the International Advisory Board of GFTN. It's a real pleasure to have you there. We also have Vincent with us. So on the left-hand side, the CEO and founder of Dana. We have Kwan from Ant International. We also have Lee on the far side there from Ant International. And then we have Kamal from bKash, the CEO of bKash. So we have a star cast of people here, and the focus is AI. And there's been a lot of talk of AI. Every conference, everyone is talking about AI. Earlier on today, there was a great question on the main stage, so the festival stage in Hall 1, which said, which is better, actual intelligence or artificial intelligence? And we're going to hopefully get to some of the answers there. I think we're going to start off with a policy perspective. I think it's a great honor to have Minister Paula with us. And so I kind of want to get your take on what you're seeing from a policy perspective. What's the current thinking around the role of AI in financial services and payments, or you can talk more broadly, but it would be good to get your perspective.
Thank you very much. I think for a start, there's no doubt that AI as a technology has great potential to improve access to financial services, to improve security. And I think the conversation when it comes to policies, how do you balance between the innovation around financial services leveraging AI, as well as the risks that come with that. And I think at the heart of that conversation is what data is being used for the kind of AI use cases that we see in the financial industry. And particularly when you're talking about underserved segments of the population, you have the opportunity to leverage AI to craft better targeted financial products to these populations. And more particularly when you look at credit scoring models today that are using traditional data, you have an opportunity to use different kinds of non-traditional data to improve the credit worthiness of different consumers. However, I think what we also see is the concern around the biases that are going to come from the data that is going to be used and how that will inform some of the AI decisions that are being made as you leverage this technology. But again, my take is that as policymakers, we can't shy away from really making use of this technology. We just have to understand better what the risks are and the concerns are, and make sure that we're building safeguards around these risks and concerns that we have, while allowing the space to innovate and ensure that we have wider reach and access of these financial services.
No, thank you. And do you see it? How do you see it between purpose and profits here? Because from a policy level, you need to ensure that there is a purpose behind all of these. And we've got commercial entities on this session. So is there a view from the policymaker's perspective here? How do you balance that? Because in one way, it costs a lot of money to bring this together. There is value here for people, but do you have a perspective on that at all? Or?
And I think that's the beauty about using some of these AI models, because you're able to balance between purpose and profit. You're able to understand why you're deploying AI. It's not because there's a hype around AI as a technology globally. It's also because there's something that's going to deliver. Are you looking to deliver better and more efficient services? Can AI respond to that? And what's going to be the cost of doing that in providing better services, more efficient services, and hopefully getting better value out of doing that? Is it also, are you deploying AI to really, beyond efficiency, to improve productivity? What are the reasons? And I think every company needs to be able to understand what is it that we're trying to do as we deploy AI models, and what's going to be the cost of doing that, and what's going to be the value that you derive out of doing that, and you're able to find that fine balance between the two.
Yeah, it's a balancing act in multiple different ways. And if we move on to you, Vincent, the work you're doing across Indonesia, From a product perspective, how is it you're seeing it impacting and maybe optimizing payments and, digital wallet services, because that's your sweet spot? And, what are you seeing right now?
Sure, thanks. Continuing what Minister Paula was just saying, that there is definitely, you need to define what the value and the purpose of the AI, how to help, the companies or the product itself on delivering what kind of value propositions to the users. I mean, in our case, definitely we also talk about, security, risk management, onboarding process, customer protections. Those are the kind of things that we've deployed the AI for. I mean, let's say to a lot of the users or a lot of SMEs, when they want to be onboarded to our service, let's say, most of the time they do have questions. And questions that generally last time you need an agent, you need a person to educate them, and now you can completely kind of not replace, but really use AI to help onboard it, like majority of the journey. And once it got a bit of a complicated into questions, or it got a bit complicated issues, then we have human experts that handles that. And that really already helps a lot with our productivity in terms of our offerings. Let's say our customer contacts now, 90% is handled by AI. And that includes the end users, that includes merchant engagement, SME engagements, and it covers everything. It covers from the onboarding process, the dispute process. It even handles sometimes in regards into risk assessment, whether or not there is a potential fraud, whether or not there's a potential scamming issues that they are facing. So we've seen AI actually, like you said, right? Is AI, it's artificial intelligence, or I would call it, it's more like augmented intelligence. So our AI really helps the people in our team, the people in our organization to augment their expertise, to augment their productivity.
Okay. And I want to just go down the value chain a little bit here and ask Lee, because obviously you work with a number of the players here, Lee. What is it that you're thinking about when you're coming out with these B2B propositions for your partners?
Yeah. I'm running the wallet technology in Ant International. So we provide e-wallet solutions, including payment, wallet, super app solutions, and we apply the AI a lot. Right? This is also a kind of a B2B service. For us, we think it is very important for the banks or the non-bank wallet to apply AI, and particularly when they try to do the digital business. And now we know many banks or wallets are building their apps. They try to onboard more services. They try to build a better user experience. But think about it. If you only have 10 services, and you can easily just lay out all the icon of the service on the homepage, right? But you need to think about once that number reaches to 100 or even 1,000, it becomes a challenge how you push the right service to the needed people, right? So we saw the challenge, and as Ant International, we took a lot of learning from Alipay China, which is using the AI-driven recommendation engine to manage the user and the service. So Alipay China, they have over 1 billion users, and on the merchant side, it has more than 90 million merchants, 4.5 million mini program. So obviously, without AI, there is no other way to precisely match the demand and the traffic. So what we as Ant International are doing is we build a platform called Alipay Plus Super App Platform. In abbreviation, it's called ASAP. And we did a lot of engineering work on user and merchant side. And more importantly, we need a very strong AI-driven engine to manage them. So we don't talk about technology detail, but I just talk about some early stage effect when we apply this technology to Alipay Hong Kong. And what we noticed is the app operation cost is lowering down. The user conversion rate is getting higher. And also, we also see some monetization opportunity for the app. So that result is quite inspiring. And we are trying to provide to more wallets and our strategic partners to serve the purpose of financial inclusion and also digitalization.
Thank you. Thank you. So one of the questions I asked the panelists about half an hour ago is, what's the most provocative question in the context of AI that I could ask you all? And Kamal was the first one. Within seconds, he said, right, this is the most provocative question that could be asked. And it's, how do you see AI touch the lives of people that are living on the margins, that are part of maybe a large swath of the community? And, you know, what's your take on this, Kamal? And, you know, how are you doing this? Because, you know, some of the challenges you're seeing in Bangladesh, you know, it's very honorable, the things that you're doing. So I'd be keen to hear from you around this.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I mean, as a practitioner, we have the opportunity to see things from a worm's eye point of view, not just from the bird's eye point of view. So we look at things when we work with regulator and policymakers. We work from a bird's eye perspective. And then when we implement that, then we have this ground reality. Now, the good thing is, you know, I mean, technology has been grossly democratized in last 20 years. Now, we are at the pinnacle of that when the AI issue comes. Of course, it's going to make things better because when it comes to poor country, let me give a tangible example. Say, Visa mostly works in rich countries, but the number of transactions they do might be just a couple of times more than our number of transactions. Okay, and the reason for that, they work with maybe $50 average ticket size, but we work with half $1 average ticket size. Wow. But in terms of technology's mindset, the way the machine is reading, is the same thing. So what Visa has done in San Francisco and Singapore and wherever, in many ways, those are getting done in poorer countries today. Okay? And that's why the technology makes a very powerful point. And the Moore's law, if you follow it, the processing power is becoming cheaper and cheaper. So what can be done in San Francisco today can be done in Bangladesh or in Burundi or wherever. Okay? So that's where I think the poor country has an unprecedented opportunity today to using AI to do better fraud management, to provide better customer service, customize customers' need very specifically. I'll give a specific example. Say we are buying T-shirts. We have small, medium, large, extra large. With these 4 sizes, T-shirt companies are selling T-shirt to us for last 50 years. But human body is not perfect. Human body has in between small and medium, many sizes. Okay? And the purpose of a clothes or a T-shirt or a dress is to make us look good. But none of us have perfect body. Technology will allow us to make things very precise. Okay? While the behavior is going on, while you are talking to a customer, you will know the customer's past and present behavior, and then you will customize his campaign right at that point, the way this medium and large and extra large haven't really worked for me. So that kind of opportunities are coming. And that's what I think AI is going to play a very important role. And I think one simple thing we get bogged with and dazzled by all these fancy names. Ultimately, it's human behavior, and our brain has certain limitation, how much we can analyze, how much we can process. AI is bringing the collective brains together, and some massive processing capacity is analyzing it at a super fast speed, kind of resource Lee was mentioning. So I think for developing countries, these are unprecedented opportunity. Okay, it's like the way a computer has pushed people from one level to another level. Now it will be pushed from maybe mid-level to a higher level, if we can simply capitalize this thing. And good thing is poor countries in many, I talk about Bangladesh, I don't know the rest of the world that much. Bangladesh has 175 million people. Out of that, addressable customer for a company like us is around 100 million, okay? Out of 100 million, we have 80 million customer today. So for us, it's a very different kind of opportunity, because we have 80 million customers' data and their behavior and a well-regulated environment. Then you can generate magic, okay? And I think that's what is about to happen.
So aren't there any, do some of your customers find that intrusive, that you're using this information about them? Isn't there an element of that data that Minister Paula was talking about? Where do you draw the line with this? Elements of imperfections, there's something quite beautiful about an imperfection. But where do you draw the line on this?
You want me to answer?
I would love
Well,
you to
I don't
answer.
have the exact answer.
Yeah.
Good thing about this, nobody has any exact answer yet. In fintech space, in this arena, if anybody pretends that he knows the answer, he's either lying or he doesn't know. Okay. And people like me who was working in the space for the last 16 years, we're still learning. But in general, governance will be very critical. Okay. I'll give you a simple example. Say, whatever data you create in the AI space, you need to store the data somewhere. Okay. Now, storing costs a lot of money. Processing costs a lot of energy. Cooling costs a lot of energy. Okay. Perhaps a country like Bangladesh would not be in a position to build the best data center in the world in near future, maybe in next 5 years. And things are moving so fast, near future is no longer 20 years. Near future is 2 years, 3 years, okay? So during that time, maybe we have to use the best data facility of data center facility of Singapore, or maybe Saudi Arabia or some other countries. So now how do I store my data over there, and how do I retrieve my data out of that? That would require a lot of governance discipline. Okay? So those are the things policymakers need to really work to define the data security, data privacy, what can we do, what can we do not. I think that's something we need to really work on. And there is no defined rule that has been determined. Things are all evolving, and I think it will continue to evolve. But in general, people have the right mindset. People are not trying to say, I'm going to destroy the world with AI. AI will have its limitation. Human emotion, human power will always triumph over AI.
Yeah, it's the people behind the AI, I think. So on that note around kind of frameworks, guardrails, that's the element you're talking about. We're going to kind of just segue slightly to SMEs, and if Minister Paula, you could kind of share a little bit, because SMEs, it's well-known fact, it's 80, 90% of most economies around the world. It varies up and down. But what are you seeing? Are you seeing enough SMEs in Rwanda and obviously across the region that are using AI in the right way, or using it to try and get an advantage? Because that's what it boils down to for an SME. How do I get an advantage to stay afloat? How do I get an advantage to get more customers?
I think what you see generally is that fewer MSMEs are actually adopting digital technologies. And so AI is one thing, but even thinking about the full landscape of digital technologies and the ability to drive productivity, better access of services, there's still work that can be done there. However, a couple of things are also happening. One, when I look at some of the work that we've been doing even at a policy level, has been to understand how we can support programs like MSMEs going digital, figuring out what kind of tools that they may need. Now, the reality is, and this comes back to the question you asked earlier, when it comes to deploying AI platforms, tools, and models, for MSMEs, it's going to be an expensive undertaking. And so that's why the uptake of such may not necessarily be as faster as we'd want to see it. So the question then becomes, how do we democratize access to some of these platforms and models? And I know we've had conversations around open source AI models. How do we understand how AI is going to help a particular MSME? Many of these, when you look at the African continent, and particularly in Rwanda, you'll see them coming together in cooperatives. Do they have the financial muscle to deploy some of these models? And really thinking through, and I think Singapore is a perfect example where there's been an active involvement of government in figuring out what digital tools MSMEs should be undertaking so that they can really grow and scale to the next level. But I'd like to share a couple of examples that we've undertaken as government. One, on the merchant side, what we wanted to understand was how do we drive digital merchant payments? And we had to build models and look at the data to really analyze the trends and the level of digitalization that is happening, both at the cooperative level, at the MSME level, even starting with basic payment solutions that these small and medium businesses could take on. And what we were also looking at was to also figure out, when we talk about the continent of Africa, cross-border trading is very important for us. And so understanding for those cross-border traders, what is the level of digitalization uptake that is happening there? And how can we unlock it even from a payment perspective? And for some, depending on the regulatory measures of each country, it becomes easy. For others, it requires a bit of unlocking for the uptake to happen. And I want to also go back to the conversation around governance. And I think what we typically see is multiple schools of thought. One, where certain countries will figure out the concept of data embassies. If you cannot build a data center that is able to support the kind of compute capacity that you need for AI models, which other country could you host your data that could have similar regulations in place? But I think the baseline is even figuring out that every country should have some form of data protection and privacy law in place. And if you can't build the infrastructure, either you figure out countries that have similar legislation to yours, or you take the route of data embassies, which has started to pick up quite lately. But I'll just close off on this. There is great potential, but I think there's a lot of support that is required to understand how we can democratize access, both to compute infrastructure, AI models, if MSMEs are going to take it up, because the cost of investment is going to be extremely high, that not all of them are going to be able to afford to adopt and drive scale at that level.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I certainly like the soundbite around open AI models and what can we do really there, as long as there are elements of guardrails there. You know, there is frameworks in place, and you know, one of the things we're seeing great value for is credit. And I know, Kwan, you know, we've kept you quiet for the moment. Now's your chance to shine. You know, how is AI helping to cover some of these challenges where credit models, credit scoring isn't quite right? You know, it's been talked about for many years now. How do we leverage technology to make a difference on the credit side?
Thank you. A bit background on, I worked in China and led the credit business for consumer and SME. I agree with Kamal on AI is a great tool of making it more level ground for the underserved. So, for example, similar as people already mentioned, those 80–90% of SMEs, the bank don't lend to them. So how do they get financial access? Once like Alipay, when they use QR code to collect payment, then they have digital footprint. They were able to use machine learning, the later large language model to efficiently processing this data. Because the trouble with payment data and all this alternative data is, unlike bureau, they're messy and very hard to process unless you have some advanced algorithm. So with that, we're actually be able to process that efficiently and be able to give over, in the end, over 50 million of SME with some credit access. And now, but this year, my role changed. So these two are actually my partners. I'm actually helping them on providing credit solutions to Indonesia and Bangladesh. And very similar story again. We see the similar technique actually can help, even in Bangladesh, although the data is still accumulating. But among the 80 million customers Kamal mentioned, were actually, in a short year or two, we are able to pre-approve 2-3 million of them with data. But how do you use the advanced technology actually to get more from the information, so to speak? But the second point I want to make is I think AI is not a magic. It has to have some data. I think to build, for the government, the private company, to build the infrastructure for e-commerce, for payments, I think that's a very important foundation for the technology to have a place to be levered. But I do want to say, add a cautionary note on the third part, is people usually wave hand on, now we have AI. It's a magic thing, right? Through all the data there, AI will tell you the answer, and magic will happen. I've been in the industry for more than 20 years, although I look young, but yes, I look young.
You are young.
I strongly believe credit decision is very different than a lot of decisions, if all the other decisions. When you do marketing, when you do promotion, you can maybe rely on a more or less black model because you see the result next day. If not right, you change that. But credit decision is something I lend you money, you may pay me back next year or 3 years later. No AI in the world would know COVID happened when you do the model in 2019. Nobody would know what happened, or maybe now we know the election result, almost know of the United States. But so credit decision need to have AI, machine learning, plus very sound know-how and human judgment. So I think it's not a replacement of credit model and traditional credit decision. It's a supplement combined with all the traditional techniques. I think that's where it's most powerful.
So we almost got 30, 40 minutes in without mentioning what's going on in another part of the world, which is going to impact everyone in the world. In case you're sleeping under a rock,
yes,
the news is almost breaking on that one, but I don't want to talk about it. So we're going to move on. Okay, Vince, cheer us up. What are you seeing? Are you seeing these advancements in Indonesia because you're faced with a lot of challenges, huge opportunities as well as the 4th, 5th largest country in the world? What are you seeing from enhancements, the way credit scores, credit decisioning, all of these things that I know that you're using Ant's technology here, but what are the things you're seeing in terms of the end results to people and businesses?
Especially when we talk about Indonesia, there have been a great transformations in terms of this entry or transformation into the digital economy. AI is one of them, definitely. But AI is not the only one, right? It needs many things to happen to get the country to move into a proper or what we call sustainable, beneficial digital economy. We talk about how AI can improve, it can augment can increase productivities. But in countries such as Indonesia, I think the key optimism that we have over the country is because of the support also from the policymakers. I think that's also a very key factors how we can drive this digital economy. I'll give some of the example, right? So one of the key factor before we get into digital economy or ecosystem, it's about KYC, right? Know your customer. And we talk about SME, then you talk about know your merchants, KYM. This wouldn't happen quickly if there is no existing digital public infrastructure. So in Indonesia, there is a service provided by our Ministry of Homeland, the Directorate of General Populations and Civil Registrations. It's very long, yes. We shorten it in Indonesia, it's called Dukcapil. And they provide access to the personal ID. So because of this access, because of the availability and the policymakers is opening it up for everyone to use it, so immediately in the last 3 years, and this has really happened in the last 3 years, I still remember 2021 was the moment that this set up this QR Indonesian standard. Between 3 years ago until now, almost half of all total SMEs now is already onboarded into this digital platform. From 67 million SMEs, 35 million of those is already in this digital payment digital ecosystem. And this is because of this service. And AI help also to accelerate it even further because, you know, when you have access, when you have these infrastructures, you can tap into it, but there's always going to be questions, like I mentioned, right? I mean, a lot of the questions are very simple. Hey, my ID is broken. What should I do? Because I can't register online. So then AI will reply to you, well, why don't you go to the closest government office that will help you to replace your ID or give you a temporary ID? Another one is, this happens a lot. I don't know, it happens in Bangladesh, but it happens a lot in Indonesia. Your ID is blurred because the way they print it, it's not as permanent, and they don't put a layer that make it like last long. So it's blurry. The face is blurry. The wording, the text is blurry. So using AI, we're able to enhance the sharpness and the Gen AI to make sure everything is actually become visible. And automatically, you don't need to go to the closest government center, but you actually can immediately solve that on the spot and onboard people on the spot. And so we've seen that this, the integrations of policymakers, the integrations of this technology, the integrations of the private sectors also adopting this, advancement, it's helping accelerate of the digital economy. And Indonesia now is on the path of what we call it a golden era, because we are on the first time ever in Indonesian history, we're going to go through what we call the bonus demography, where the productive age is actually going to be larger than the non-productive age. And we're targeting our GDP per capita growth in the next 3 to 5 years to be 8%, currently at 5%. And I believe using all of this together, collaborating the industry, the policymakers, and using the AI, using all the available technology in place, using the credit scoring, we will be able to accelerate this economy.
That's great to hear. And we have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try and let's keep our answers short so we can get through as much as possible. We have a question from the audience here that I think we should answer. So I will go in. Press active, if it works. Hopefully it does work. The question is, while AI is used by financial institutions for fraud detection, fraudsters are leveraging AI for deep fakes to compromise facial verification. How are your organizations tackling the challenges that AI would bring? So maybe if you've got, who would like to take this answer? I'm going to look at you, Lee. It's a short answer. We literally have 3 and a bit minutes.
Yeah, I think since Alipay has business operation in China for payment, for super app transaction, and also we have a lot of business partners like Dana, like bKash in many countries. So we have a lot of experience how we apply AI in the fraud management area. And one thing we leverage is we use collaboration between AI and other technology to control the risk. I'll give you an example. Many fraudsters actually they are not standalone, so they work in a gang. But there is a certain pattern, and we can proactively predict. And because if you just draw the line, whether it is the money flow between the fraudsters and even with the victims, so there is some early sign. So we use AI plus some graph computing technology to do that, and the effect actually is quite significant.
Okay, no, that's good to hear. And we've got literally a minute and a half left. So I'm going to go round. Kamal, you want to say something?
So I'll make it very short. I mean,
yes.
Entrepreneurs like myself, my colleagues, we are designed to solve problems. We're designed to focus on solutions. We are not designed to chase thieves. Okay? If the machine can take care of the thief chasing, and doing the identification properly, okay, then we will be able to put our energy and mind and resource more on productive things. I think that will be the best thing of fraud management through AI.
Got you. Okay. One last thing. So what is the one bright thing you expect to see from AI or augmented intelligence? I think that's going to have to be the thing in 1 to 3 years. So you've literally got 5 seconds each. Go, come on.
Manage expectation.
Manage expectations. Lee?
AI agent.
AI agent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Democratized
Paula?
access.
Democratized assets.
I actually think we talk too much about customer facing. I think AI will solve all the services behind the scene. That's the biggest opportunity for the financial industry.
Okay.
All the agents and stuff.
Okay, there's a similarity there. All right, you better make it good. You're the last one up. Come on, Vincent, no pressure.
No, I'm going to say upskilling the human.
Upskilling the human.
Yes.
Okay, on upskilling the human, our time is up. We're giving 20 seconds back as well. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you found it entertaining.